But the husband walks out there to lovingly get his wife a glass of water, and then she blasts a song like scream speaker in the cupboard, scares the crap out of him. The guy like belts over the table, all these things. Welcome back to Privy. Privy is a podcast about bathrooms, recorded from my home bathroom. I'm your host, Hunter Hoover, and I love bathrooms. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a bit. It feels like it to you. It probably doesn't feel very long, but normally I bank some episodes, and a lot of what I have released has been banked a little bit, not a lot. A little peek behind the privy curtain here. But this episode is very much not banked. At the point of this record, this episode is set to release in under 48 hours. So we are what we call on crunch time. But it's been good. And part of the reason that is I have another guested episode coming up. Stay tuned. Get hyped. I sat down with my friend and soon-to-be friend of the show, Aaron Luckman. So that episode is coming. But the other thing is as I approached this episode, I was originally going to put this episode out in April. But I thought to myself, I was like, well, if I put the episode out in April, the things that we are going to talk about this week are going to be a lot less pertinent to everyone. And so in order to maybe give you ideas that you could put into practice in the coming week or so, we have this day on the horizon that has become a day of fun, loving, and cheer. Before we discuss that, I have to tell you that the other night I was tasked with running a stool sample to the hospital at 9:30 at night. It was a real treat. Nothing like walking into the emergency room with a cup with a turd in it. It was a very, very fun experience for me to have had. It's a weird thing. Working at a hospital, I imagine that when someone comes in and they're like, I wonder if in their brain they want to ask when someone's like, oh, I'm here to drop off a sample, if they're going, what type? Like, I wonder if they're ever trying to figure out what type. More stories about me dropping samples off at the hospital coming this summer. But as March draws to a close, there is this day of kind of fun, loving, and cheer, or for many people, frustration and annoyance on the horizon. And so this week on Privy, we're serving up another batch of bathroom pranks and discussion around April Fool's Day for you to enjoy. And so to kick things off, something we haven't done, and it's not really bathroom related, but maybe a little bit. There's a butt thing involved there. Nope. There is a thing to do with backsides there. I made it as clean as I could. Involving the history of April Fool's Day. Depending on who you ask, when you try to figure out where April Fool's Day came from, there's a few options that we have to choose from. The first of these options dates back to 1582. When France, Monsieur, we're back in France, switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. Now, I believe we are on the Gregorian calendar now, but pretty much what it was, and the Council of Trent demanded that, and pretty much what it was is the Julian calendar had the beginning of the year starting in April or around April 1st. It was like the beginning of the spring season was the beginning of the new year. And the Gregorian calendar moved it back to January 1st, much like we experience today. Now, it's a whole thing, but pretty much what happened is you had, when this switch happened, much like any time you change anything out here in America, not every state, some states are more free than others. That's what I've learned. But we just switched to daylight savings time. And anytime you switch to daylight savings time, there is about a week-long period where there's kind of an adjustment in our internal clocks. And everybody's kind of got to sort themselves out a little bit. anytime you change the date or the clock or like when it flips over to the new year, there's people that are writing the previous year for weeks on end after that switch happens. It's just a thing. And so the people who were slow to get the news and recognize that the start of the new year had moved essentially back 3 months and continued to celebrate it during the last week of March through April 1st, became the butt of jokes and hoaxes, and were kind of regarded as idiots, for lack of a better word, and began to be called April Fools. Now, I want to note here, the April Fool's Day was essentially their way of making fun of all the people who hadn't got the memo about what month they're on. Again, they switched the calendar. And I want you to think about this. So you're going about your day, and for, say you're 40, they didn't live that long. Say you're 25 years old. Every year for the past 25 years, January has been like nearing the end of the year. You got about 3 months left. And then one year in France in 1582, they just decide, okay, instead of that being the case, we are moving the new year up to today, and we are starting our new year today. Now there's 3 months of lost time that we have to account for. I don't know how that works with time and calendars. And there's probably somebody on TikTok, if our beloved government hasn't banned it by this point, who could explain to me what we did with that 3 months. Maybe that's what leap days are about. No, leap days have something to do with the sun. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a calendarist or whatever these things are. But they switched the calendar. And I want you to imagine that next week, it's April 1st. By the time you listen to this episode, you have plenty of time to prepare your pranks, and you will have seen April Fool's Day coming from hopefully about a week away. But let's say it's April 1st, and we wake up, and they say, actually, guys, it's not April 1st, it's July 1st. Summer is here. You get to begin summer now. Go. It would be jarring. Like, that is essentially what happened. They moved the date up. They didn't rename it. They just said, this is where we start. It would be like if we woke up tomorrow and they said, actually, we're going to move Christmas. I don't know. It's hard to wrap my brain around. But what I want you guys to see is that they were just dogging on the people that could not get this square in their brain. And what's frustrating is I think I would have been one of these people that would have struggled to make this adjustment as quickly as they wanted me to. But they began to pull pranks to make fun of these people. And some of these pranks included having paper fish placed on their backs and being referred to as poisson d'avril, April fish. And it's said to symbolize a young, easily caught fish or a gullible person. They got you on the line. Another option where April Fool's Day came from, that's the first option, the French not being able to figure it out. The other option is a little farther back, came from ancient Rome. We made it. Gentlemen, we talked about it. Ancient Rome has arrived again. Historians here link April Fool's Day to festivals honoring Hilaria, which is like, I guess, this goddess of something. I don't know. Who knows? Or the cult of Sybil, or I don't know. But it's Latin for the joyful festival, celebrated in Rome at the end of March. It involved people dressing up in disguises, Halloween, mocking fellow citizens. I feel like that's Groundhog's Day based on how much grief I take for celebrating Groundhog's Day. And magistrates were said to be inspired by the Egyptian legends of Isis, Osiris, and Set. Now, there's speculation on April Fool's Day that it's also tied to the vernal equinox, the spring equinox, the first day of spring in the northern hemisphere, when Mother Nature fooled people with changing, unpredictable weather. Ooh, you got us again. Mother Nature showed up. That's dumb. Either way, wherever this started, I tend towards the argument for the French thing being the most compelling, but whatever. Why can't it be all three? Wherever it started, the idea of celebrating a day for the April Fool didn't catch on so much until like 1700s in Europe. April Fool's Day spread throughout Britain in the 1700s. In Scotland, the tradition became a 2-day event. It's too much. Here, I'm going to tell you something here. Just gather in. Kids, again, you're getting ready to pull some pranks on your parents and teachers. Number 1, keep it clean. Number 2, make sure that the person you're pulling a prank on can hang. You don't pull pranks on people who can't hang, because if they can't hang, they're going to cry like little diaper babies, and you don't want to do that. No. And yes, that's on them, but when diaper baby's going to do what a diaper baby's going to do you know what I'm saying here? In Scotland, the tradition became a 2-day event, starting with the hunting of the gawk? I don't know. G-O-W-K, whatever that is. Let's look it up. What's a gawk? G-O-W-K. Internet. It's a bird. It's a bird. It's a cuckoo bird. Oh, okay. Fine enough. So it's the hunting of the cuckoo bird, which is in their culture. Oh, yeah, here we go. As a symbol for the fool. Pretty much, they were sent on fake errands to run, kind of like the hunting of the snipe. Like, yeah, you got to go snipe hunting. All right, I'll go do that, and you can't find it. And was followed. So the hunting of the snipe or gawk or cuckoo bird was followed by Taily Day. Now, Taily Day is where the butt comes in. Taily Day involved playing pranks on people's butts. Yep. And this is, from what I can tell, the origin of the kick me sign. Because you would pin fake tails or signs indicating that the person needed to be kicked in the butt. Prank! Got him. And the 1700s Europeans knew how to put a guy on blast. So funny. Nothing's better than physical assault in the streets. Like, to really kick off April Fool's Day. Keep it clean. That's rule number 1 here, friends. But the reality is, there's plenty of bathroom prank options. We don't have to stoop to just shoehorning someone right up the cornholio. Like, there's plenty of bathroom prank options, and we've explored many of these in years past. Go check those out, our April Fool's Day episodes of the last couple of years. But the internet's a neat place, and so I have ventured forth to bring you a fresh batch of bathroom pranks. Bathroom Pranks 3.0. We've got a fresh batch of these pranks. Last year, I want to note, we discussed the Brown Bag Deluxe, a.k.a. the Brown Bag Special, a.k.a. the bag of dog or human poop on somebody's doorstep, wherein you light it on fire and let the rest commence. You're essentially tricking someone to curb stomping a bag full of turds. Woof. Speaking of dog poop, my dog had like weird diarrhea this morning, and it got in the house, and it was a very frustrating moment for me. Yeah. You know, dogs are great, but what in the flippin' heck was going on there? Do you know what I'm saying? And I shared last year the tale of woe when I performed the Brown Bag Deluxe when I was in high school, and we were irresponsible and lit it on fire and ran away. And because we didn't want to get caught. And we didn't get caught, but like definitely left a flaming bag of turds on fire. Now, nothing burned down. I mean, looking back is bad. It could have been serious. Could have been. Thank God it was not. That's where we are. Many of these pranks come from online sources. The first batch of these comes from Mashable.com. Now, Mashable.com is either a website that someone with lots of mashed potato recipes was just itching to get on, and they bought it before them, or it's one of those online tech fake gossip news websites where they're like, oh yeah, we're a news company, but also we're going to write about bathroom pranks this week. So like, you tell me. But Mashable.com has some gems. Now, some of what they offer, I'm cutting out the chaff. I'm weeding out the chaff for you because some of these we've already discussed at length on the show, and others are stupid. So, like, we're cutting those ones out. And you can find the Mashable.com link down in the descriptor thingy below. You can go look at this for yourself if you want. Or you can just allow me to sift through the mire on your behalf. But they have some gems. And the first is a couple variations on putting something in your buddy's shower head. Now, in this, you unscrew or undo the shower head and you put various items in the shower head. One of these includes placing bouillon cubes, chicken bouillon cubes. Bouillon? It's probably French. We've come full circle. Essentially, you stick a soup cube in the shower head and the water comes on and it makes like chicken soup for the showered soul. And you just get fully wet with chicken soup. It's prank! Got him. Now, I have to say, I would try the soup. Like, I would definitely just open mouth let that soup just hit me. Why not? It could be the future of shower technology. We could be knocking on shower's door here with the future of flavor shower. TM. Think of those like circle water bottles where you got like the flavor cartridge and you like cartridge your water bottle. Speaking of which, we're talking about getting a drink in the bathroom. You know it's on deck. Kachika, like a spring chicken I have come home. Orange vanilla polar seltzer. You are my friend. That wets the whistle. But yeah, I think I would definitely open mouth the shower chicken soup. It could be new technology. Again, flavor shower head, TM. But the real prank here is going to be the fact that person going to smell like chicken soup for a minute after that shower. And I don't know if you've ever messed around with chicken bouillon, but that is some concentrated mess. And if that is blasting right onto your skin, you're going to smell like a chicken for a week. It's stinky. But you could easily swap this out for all sorts of things. Alka-Seltzer tablet, give them a little fizzy shower head prank. You could put some food dye or like dye tablets up there. It's going to dye their skin so good. You just come to work. Dave walks into work and he's just purple. He's like flipping skin suit Barney and everybody's scared of Dave. Barney Dave. One of the best options I saw. This one's psychological. If you do this, you're playing some mind games on a level that I'm not comfortable with. But I saw somebody say that you could put like a piece of hard candy or like a mint in the shower head. And the reason is as it runs, it's running that sugar and stuff out and it actually makes them a little bit sticky. Like the person just is going to get sticky from it. It's good. Prank. I also think you could put like some Icy Hot or Bengay up there. More on Icy Hot here in a moment. Just give the whole body a burning sensation. So good. This shower head idea is literally a world of possibilities. And another great bathroom prank is a prank to a person's bar soap. You take the bar soap, and first thing you need to check and see if they've carved a message in it. If you ever interact with a bar of soap, and you're in the wild and you're interacting with soap, check for messages. You never know. It could be a cry for help. It could be a cry for affection. Who knows what's going on? But you take some clear nail polish and you just paint over the whole bar of soap with this clear nail polish. It keeps the soap from reacting with the water and just making bubbles, but it's clear so you can't even see it. Prank! So good. You could technically do the same thing for like a person's deodorant stick. Just paint the layer over and it might not spread to your armpits the same way. But what I'm guessing is going to happen is there's somebody out there who's going to be like, oh, the clear fingernail polish was like detrimental to my health and my armpit burns and stings. There's just another prank recommendation, which to replace your victim's deodorant with cream cheese. What? Dear God, Mashable.com, please. Just take a lap. Like, one, cream cheese is not the same consistency as deodorant. And if it is, either your cream cheese is bad or your deodorant has melted oddly in some way. Also, my deodorant's blue, so like this one might be a miss. Prank? One time, to sub this out, keep the cream cheese in the fridge, kids. If you want an icy piece of deodorant, listen up. The safer bet to really get their goat, if you don't want to like toxic spray their armpit with the armpit or the fingernail polish, and you don't want to waste cream cheese and like get cream cheese in the bathroom, like keep the cream cheese out of the bathroom. No cream cheese in the bathroom, unless it's cream cheese frosting on a cupcake and you're eating a cupcake in the bathroom. That's different. But like loose, untopped, unused, unaltered cream cheese should not be in the bathroom. And it definitely should not be wedged into a deodorant stick. That's idiotic. But I think the safer bet to really get them is to like rub icy hot on their deodorant, really freeze their armpits. One time, some guys did this when I was in school. I remember sitting in geometry class, nerd, and we just look up. I don't even know who did it, but Justin Smith is just like in his chair because he's got like spicy armpits. I think they also put it in his like underpants, that's a good prank, but maybe a bridge too far. But I just remember he was like getting full icy hot in the zones. Like, and it was, sorry, Justin, I don't think you listen to this. If you do, thank you. And I'm sorry that I am reminiscing with enjoyment on that having happened to you. But it was funny. I think like as we all look back, we can admit that like most of the time, 90% of the time, pranks are funny. Prank. Next, Mashable.com says that they put a small dot of food coloring on the person's toothbrush. And again, I'm not sure. I'm convinced. I rinse my toothbrush before I stick it in my mouth. And so I'm curious if I would rinse all the stuff down, or if in the process of preparing my brush, you got to wet the brush. You know, you got to get the brush damp before you get the stuff on it. And I'm wondering if in getting the brush damp before I put the stuff on it, if I'm going to like rinse off or reveal the food coloring before it has a chance to make my mouth completely purple. I think that is the goal, by the way. I think you could use squid ink. I think if you could like figure out how to get a little bit of the food coloring in the top of you could get one with the pointed tip, like the gel food coloring, and you could stick it in the top of the toothpaste and just squish a little bit of that gel food coloring type stuff, like for cakes and stuff. Squish it in the top. Oh gosh, that's gonna come out when they go to brush their teeth, and it's gonna be a wild ride. Prank. Another great one. Brought to us from the internet. These come from a different source. Let me peek it. Let me check my sources here. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this is just from like a history.com, like general pranks for, yeah. So if you've ever watched like online, there's like a whole section of the internet wherein like people put like a speaker in the kitchen cupboard, and then they ask their spouse, hey, can you go get me a glass of water? And then the husband, because it's the husband going out there and getting this glass of water. But the husband walks out there to lovingly get his wife a glass of water, and then she blasts a song, like scream speaker in the cupboard, scares the crap out of him. The guy like belts over the table, all these things. You just pull that, but you put it in the kitchen or the bathroom cupboard. And then when they go to take a shower, as soon as they get the shower going, you just play the music. I think it'd be funny to play like horror music, like The Shining, just like, or like Psycho, just knife scene, ding, 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 like while they are taking a shower, right as they just get freshly lathered, full lather, cue the music, just really freak them out. I was explained that the term, anyway, we're not going to get into it. Prank. One site said to put yellow dish soap in the toilet bowl and maybe some in the top. It's hard to really tell what's going on with this prank, but according to this source, when you flush it to clear the yellow that kind of looks like pee, it like mixes the soap up and bubbles your toilet. I don't think that one's going to work, but who knows? If you try it, let me know. Prank? Sometimes, however, and these are just a few. There's plenty more. I gave you a handful to try this year. Here's the reality. We can't expend all the pranks because if we did, what are we going to do next year? So I hope these have some ideas for you. But before we end here, I want to note that sometimes pranks can go too far. And sometimes they get carried beyond what they should. And when that happens, sometimes the law gets involved. Last year, if we remember, we also talked about the online service poopsenders.com. Yes, they're still in business, but we got to talk about them. Well, poopsenders.com found its way into the spotlight a few years back, so we need to discuss this in this installment of Poo in the News. Poop Spenders Exposed. This article comes from Vice.com. A lady named Sarah Privycast, I'm going to go with that, is at home one day, and the article says that her husband brings in a package off the front step, and a regular haul from the post office is stuffed in a lump. It has a lump-shaped object inside. The return address, it is reported as giving a P.O. box in Allison Park, Pennsylvania. Inside, so they open it up. Inside is a bag containing what looks like a chunk of grass and some liquid floating around, and it kind of smells bad. And Privycast told them that it looks like a poopy pie. Now, the plastic bag, it also contained a card that said, "You've been pooped on. Want to know by whom?" And you have to open the bag and flip it over. And that's the whole joke with poopsenders.com. Is you have to figure out who sent you the poop, you have to flip it over. Now, when you do that, it says on the backside, "We'll never tell," and a web address, www.poopsenders.com. Now, one of these, this got sent to this Sarah Privycast lady, and she's one of many, but Poop Senders sends their poop through U.S. Postal Service. And the site warns that this is supposed to be in good fun. And you can order, and they list all the things you can order. And the lady, Poop Sender's package, there was a 2014, a woman sent a Poop Sender package to a neighbor. They filed a complaint, and in 2019, and they won against that person, by the way. They had to spend a couple days in prison. In 2019, a waiter in Austin used it as revenge, and people have reported feeling harassed. So one of these people is Sarah Privycast. She said that she was going through a brutal election cycle in her state. And the response was, in their claim, part of online harassment. She and her husband were being called out as awful things on the internet because they're running for public office. Here's the deal. If you're running for public office, you got to be able to take some shade thrown at you. That's where you got to be able to handle it. Now, they interpreted this bag of turds in their mail as the people saying, "This is what we think of you." And I would argue, now I'm not arguing that they shouldn't feel that way. If that's how they want to feel, that's fine. But you don't get to say what the people are trying to say by the bag of poop. You can say how it made you feel, but you don't get to say what they meant. It's a very important distinction here. She also notes that she was pregnant. It's one of those things where it's like, the more Vice.com keeps talking, the more it's like, was this lady also have childhood trauma from a cow farm. Like, please add to what is wrong with them. But apparently she was also pregnant, so the smell was really bad. Whatever. A part of so they filed legal repercussions, and as part of it, it was the United States of America versus poopsenders.com. Federal prosecutors named in documents the father and son duo they believed are behind poopsenders.com. And I'm actually not going to share their names here because I want people to get pooped on with this. But it's reported that they lived in the suburbs north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The two men were linked to an LLC named JD Infinity, Mifflinfinity, if you will, incorporated at their home address in a cul-de-sac in Pittsburgh. The company has no website, no online footprint. Public record shows 2 payment protection program payments for a total of $43,000 from the COVID-19 relief bill. That money, plus the interest accrued, was completely forgiven. 2 jobs were listed in JD Infinity's PPP application, which are probably the father and son that they believe are behind poopsenders.com. So in November 2019, the U.S. Office of the Inspector General, the OIG, if you will, issued a subpoena to JD Infinity LLC / poopsenders.com, thus trying to connect Poopsenders, a all but online and anonymous company, to JD Infinity. Multiple emails were sent, phone calls were made. They cannot find these guys. In mid-December, it is reported that they called to speak, did not answer, contacted again, did not respond. They're playing telephone. But as this goes on, Poopsenders begins to kind of unravel. First of all of this led to someone in the midst of it sending a package of poop to the postal inspector. That's funny. Got him. And according to court documents, a postal supervisor in Michigan was, quote, victimized and harassed by means of crude Facebook posts, minor personal property damage, and the receipt of package of imitation. It's not imitation. It's real. Feces. In November 2019, as part of the investigation, the U.S. Postal Service and the Office of the OIG issued a subpoena. We already got that. And it names these 2 gentlemen of JD Infinity as the president and custodian of records at poopsenders.com. The lawsuit describes them as identified as corporate records, and the people who wrote this motherboard posted by Vice, I don't know, has not been able to verify that. That is important. The lawsuit describes them as the individual who is identified as the owner of Poopsenders on Pennsylvania corporate records. However, future events leave doubt. The subpoena sent to Poopsenders' P.O. box was ignored. Lawsuit indicates. So they send this subpoena to the Poopsenders address, return P.O. box number that was listed when they send the poop out, and it gets ignored, probably because it's fake. And according to the lawsuit, in July 2020, an agent acting on behalf of the OIG hand-delivered a follow-up subpoena to the gentleman in question. It was ignored because it's speculation that he is truly attached to poopsenders.com. This moved the U.S. attorneys in the Western District of Pennsylvania to file United States of America versus poopsenders.com, a suit asking a judge to issue a show cause order, which would force Poopsenders into court to explain why they ignored the subpoenas. This was filed in connection to lawsuits notes that Poopsenders goes to great lengths to obscure and conceal a physical address of its operation identity. I wonder flippin' why. It's probably because they're sending bags of animal turds to people and they don't want people coming and knocking on their doors like these people are trying to do. According to court records, December 4th, over a year after all this has started, someone paid to physically deliver court papers successfully handed a summons to the gentleman's son, and those records allege that he is the president of poopsenders.com and that his son is the manager of some kind. Less than 2 weeks later, the U.S. Attorney's Office dismissed the lawsuit because, quote, the defendant complied with the subpoena. Representatives for both the post office and the OIG and the Western District of Pennsylvania said the offices would not comment on the litigation or why it was dropped. And I believe it was dropped because they cannot really connect them to poopsenders.com. And even if they did, poopsenders.com says on their website that they are not held liable for the things people pay for them to do. This person notes that when he visited the business address listed in the lawsuit, found a large metal mailbox labeled JD Infinity and a door marked with a logo for Round Town, one of the names of the many corporations that promote local businesses that this father and son have done. Knocked on the door, no one answered. Poopsenders.com claims to send anonymous non-hazard package in the U.S. Post Service, and that it is legal. Some victims have turned to police. Sarah Privycast, reported the incidents to the Albany County Sheriff's Office, but it's Albany, Oregon, not Albany, or Albany, New York, not Albany, Oregon. I'm here in Albany, Oregon. They were in Albany, New York. But it never led to any charges, mostly because I don't think it's technically illegal. Others have argued it does constitute a crime. One, Lily Shonak, a state former prosecutor, running for elected office in North Dakota, said, in my opinion, they should be prosecuted for aiding and abetting harassment. Problem is, on the website, again, it says you cannot do this out of harassment. So if you agree to continue, it is all in good fun. It's a prank. She talks about how she got a poop sender sent to her, that it had been raining, the package was ripping, it was getting wet, and she's certain that it was her opponent that had not done it, but that people were doing it in retaliation. But again, you can't prove that they were, so here we are. No charges came from that either. The office did not respond. And so regardless of legal definitions, the feeling that the package was created was one of harassment. However, at least at this point in this country, they don't penalize people for the feeling of something. They have to prove it. And technically, poopsenders.com is providing a service. And technically, they have warned those who seek their help in that service that it should not be done in harassment and it should not be done in hate or spite. And so that brings us to the end of Poo in the News, which is a reminder that poopsenders.com is still available. You can still go do it because while it might be shady as heck, I don't think it's illegal to the point where they can be shut down. This brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thank you so much for being here. As always, you can follow us on social media. We're at Privycast. Send us an email. We're privycast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send us ideas, suggestions, responses, all those things. Privycast@gmail.com. We would also love for you to leave us a rating or review. The 5-star option is preferred. The easiest way to do that is in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or if you go to Podbean, you can like the episode. Also, you can leave us a comment on Spotify podcasts. And we've actually had a couple of responses on a couple of our episodes. So I want to share those here. You can go check these out. On our feminine hygiene episode, Michael Wall let us know that it's informative. Friend of the show and former guest, Michael Wall. Thank you, Michael. He's a true hero. Also on the episode with my wife, Michael wanted everyone to know that it is Jim Henson, not Jim Hansen, and that he, as a custodian, believes the seat should always be left down or closed. So thank you, Michael. Your insight is always appreciated. You're a charm of a person. So if you want to interact, we would love for you to interact there. You can go to Spotify and interact in that way. We would love to share and read those on the program when we get out here. Leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. We would love to read that out. And as a thank you for all the ratings and reviews left, we're going to donate $1 to the Wounded Warriors Project and to Living Water International as a way of saying thank you for leaving us a rating and review. And so go do that. We would appreciate that. And that brings us to the end of another episode of Privy. Thank you so much for being here. Be safe with these pranks. Keep pooping in the free world. Breathe more, push less. And now, as always, don't forget to flush.